As an 80s baby, I grew up during the heyday of the martial arts action comedy. I caught all the greats on screen or on VHS tape. Who here remembers tapes? Raise your hand. Y'all are all old, look at you. I don't remember tapes, I don't know what you're talking about. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Zhang Pei, Van Damme, Cynthia Rothrock, and the great Billy Blanks. Who knows Billy Blanks? Ty Bo. You know, he made a couple movies. They were awful. You should try to find them if you just want to see how bad it can get. But I've seen them all. We called these kung fu movies, even though many of them weren't kung fu movies, they weren't Hong Kong productions at all. I want to take a second to acknowledge that the kung fu movie is a subgenre of wuxia, a genre of Chinese fiction that goes back 2,000 years. The martial arts movies that I grew up with, in those movies, that there was always that scene, you know that scene where the main character standing over a bunch of wood, a stack of wood, or some bricks, or in a kung fu movie, it's like a clay jug or a man sitting on top of a ladder holding a cup. You know what I'm talking about? And the guy, he's standing over the wood or the bricks, and he pulls back his hand, and he goes, ah! Boom! Smashes it. Snaps in two, boards, bricks, magical jug pieces flying everywhere, and you're sitting there, and you're wondering, how? How does this dude not break his hand? A martial arts master once told me the secret to breaking wood with my bare hands. Do y'all want to know what he said? This is why I love y'all. Just jump right in with the audience participation. I appreciate it. So he said, to break the wood, you first prepare yourself mentally, and then here's the secret. You strike past the board. You don't hit the board, you root yourself into the ground, power through your hips, engage your whole body, focus on your objective, and then you punch past it. The board is just a thing in your way. There's a term for this, it's called follow-through. The dangerous person in any fight, expert in any movement or sport, is the person who understands follow-through. And also the most dangerous person in any reverential pastor situation is the man who loses track of where he's at in the... Come on now. So you see the fighter, they jab a little bit, they move around, jab, jab. Then they see their opening. Many times the opening that they themselves created, they rotate their hips, they ground themselves, and suddenly a part of their body is a vector for all the power and energy that they can create, focused not just on a point, but beyond it, they strike and follow through. As a Unitarian Universalist, I believe that there are many sources of spiritual wisdom. The Hebrew and Christian scriptures are among the 6 sources of our living faith. However, in a Unitarian Universalist church, many a Sunday may go by without any mention of the Bible, and that's okay. We as a faith have grown in a direction without any easy definitions, and that can be inconvenient in a time where it seems like everyone is looking for simple answers to complex solutions. But that doesn't make the plate that we use are cooking any less delicious. Now, and I want to acknowledge this off the top. I realize that by doing a reading from the Bible, I made some people in here nervous. I know. And I mean, I saw somebody out there like shine up the pitchfork, so, you know. Y'all can get me out of here after this, but just let me finish this sermon and then y'all can go. But here's the thing. There's some babies inside of that biblical bathwater, so I don't want to just toss it all out. So we're actually at the start of the second week of Advent. And this is the month where we celebrate the birthday of my favorite rabbi, faith healer, and traveling exorcist, the man Yeshua of Galilee. And I thought it good to turn to the biblical Jesus for inspiration for this sermon, and I did. So what does all this martial talk have to do with Jesus, let alone faith? Well, in nearly every tradition, there's a break with the old and a stepping into the new, the punch and the follow-through. Before attaining enlightenment and becoming the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a wealthy prince in northern India who, upon seeing the difference between his privileged life and the suffering outside, he departed on a quest to find a better way, culminating in a sitting meditation for 49 days underneath a Bodhi tree. In traditional Yoruba and Afro-diasporic religions, an initiate must seclude themselves for up to 21 days of ritual practice before taking on new responsibilities to their community. Jesus, through his years of active ministry, repeatedly called his followers away from their old ways of being to follow him into the new. In Luke 5, Jesus comes across Peter, James, and John, who were deep into their lives as fishermen. They weren't catching anything, but, they were fishing. And in Jesus, they saw a new possibility, so they left their lives behind to follow him. The Universalists within our Unitarian Universalist faith, of which I am one, believe in universal salvation. I cannot imagine a God sitting atop their mercy seat, waiting for us to make a mistake so that they can hit us with a laser beam and cast us into a pit of gnashing teeth for all eternity. That's just too petty, and I don't think that God is as petty as we are. So I stand here full in the knowledge that one day I will return to the source of all goodness. So does that mean that we as UUs have no need for salvation? So Annapolis, I gave a version of this talk about 2 or so months ago to the inmates at Prince George's County Correctional Center. On average, the inmates at PGCC have a lower educational levels than your typical UU congregation, corporate, or government workplace. But see, those inmates have access to sources of wisdom that we simply do not on our day-to-day. Trust me when I tell you that they can teach us some things. We do not realize how much of our sense of self is connected to our freedom. But when that's taken away, we have to confront both powerlessness and the potential loss of our own self-image. To be imprisoned is to live not with, but inside the physical manifestation of oppression. Therefore, salvation. What is salvation? If you forget anything else that I say today, you can just hold on to this and then you're good. Salvation is liberation, physical, mental, and spiritual oppression. I'm going to say it again. Salvation is liberation from physical, mental, and spiritual oppression. Inmates understand this. They understand salvation. And I think it's good to remember that when Jesus was put to death, he was an inmate. But that's a different sermon. That's not today's sermon. So while I believe in universal salvation, the experience of incarcerated Americans is testimony to the hell that we humans can create right here, right now. So then salvation is liberation. It is to become new, not just in a moment, but through a course of spiritual development, a commitment to a way of being, a following through. In John 21:15-19, Jesus has something to say about this. It was our reading today. And at first glance, this reading does not make any actual sense. Why is Jesus asking Peter 3 separate times the same question? Do you love me, Peter? Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep. Do you love me, Peter? Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep. Do you love me, Peter? Yes, I love you. Dang, Jesus. Boy, feed my sheep. What's going on? So here's where it gets fun and nerdy for me, because the key is in the translation. See, Jesus spoke Aramaic, but the New Testament was written in Greek, and the version that we all read is in English. We got the name Jesus from German translations of his actual name, which is Yeshua, which is Joshua. When you read the Greek versions of the New Testament, something becomes shockingly clear. When Jesus asks, do you love me? And Peter responds, yes, I love you. They're not saying the same thing. They're not using the same word for love. See, English only has one word for love, but classical Greek has several. When Peter responds to Jesus' question, he's using the verb phileo, which means brotherly love. That's love between homeboys, homegirls, homies. But see, when Jesus asks the question, he uses the verb agapao, which means to love divinely. That's the verb from which we derive the word agape. That's the highest form of love. Jesus says it so much that some might argue that the core of his message is that there's a greater kind of love that connects us to the divine and each other, and we are all capable of it. The love that Jesus showed the disciples and the multitudes was an example of the kind of love that we can and perhaps should, by extension, develop for one another. This is the man who told us all to love our enemies and to pray for those who persecute us. Agape. But see, Peter's stuck on phileo, which is the equivalent of, yeah, Jesus, we're cool. He doesn't want to move forward, nor does he want to move back. To his credit, Peter seems to realize in the moment that backsliding is the worst thing that you can do. Can I talk to you guys for a second about backsliding? This is the part where you say yes. Yes. Cool. So the thing about backsliding is it's almost the quickest way to lose a fight. None of your efforts have any power if you're moving backwards, and you risk you increase your risk for powerful overhand blows. Now, what about Muhammad Ali, you might say? Well, I'm glad you raised that question, Congregation. So if you watch him, he repeatedly moves backwards in his fights. But see, there you go. That's the exception that proves the rule. It took the greatest boxer of all time to win fights like that. He bet on his unique ability to either dodge the punch or, when he couldn't, to take the punishment. And he would take those blows against the ropes, and then when the opponent was tired, he would step forward off the ropes and knock the other guy out. But that kind of fighting, it takes a toll. We all saw the toll that it took on that man. As individuals, as a congregation, as a country, we won't always be able to move forwards, but we should try our best to avoid moving backwards. Because the more we move back, the more damage that we're going to have to weather. So Peter is metaphorically in the fight, but he lacks follow-through. And Jesus is trying to help him see that his posture is not one of victory, but Peter is not getting it. And the text says he's hurt. In some translations, it says that he's disturbed, which is perhaps why Jesus, Yeshua, super teacher, is pointing out the issue in one breath and then offering a remedy with the next. Peter, feed my sheep. See, when you're stuck in spiritual combat, you're taking blows and you're getting hurt. Do something for someone. Make an act of faith and loving kindness. Feed someone, listen to someone, offer someone care. That's how you begin to follow through. But don't misunderstand me. Following through also makes you vulnerable. Please believe that if you decide to dedicate your life to Christ, if you decide to take Shahada and become a Muslim, if you join your UU congregation and invest yourself into the space and the loving community that we create here, or in any way try to get yourself right with a higher power and your fellow humans, you will be vulnerable. In fact, the opponent often waits for you to commit before throwing the heaviest blows, because the opponent knows that following through opens you up for attack. I talked about my past and my whole pathway to come here a couple weeks back. And when I decided to enter the ministerial pathway, I felt vulnerable. And the moment of commitment, that was euphoria. But the follow through, that has been the battle, because that's when the blows came. Relationships got tense. All my cool stuff had to get sold. Suddenly I'm cleaning toilets and riding a bicycle to work. I'm telling you, it will take you to a new low that you didn't know you had when somebody steals your bike and you're like, dang, how am I going to get to work? It's real. The temptation to backslide was and still is strong, but I stay in the fight because even as I find myself occasionally against the ropes, wondering whether or not I should be in the ring, I'm here. And I don't want to walk away from the possibilities that faith has shown me. Let me ask you guys a question. Have any among you committed yourself to change for the better, only to find yourself in a situation where it feels like life is unloading every single heavy punch at you? Okay. So you're sitting there and you can barely think. Eyes cut. Barely keep your hands up. You're seeing out of one eye. You're like, Ryan, how can I do this? Well, I'm here to tell you something. Life is not, in fact, a professional boxing match. It is a WWE wrestling match. That's right. Life is pro wrestling, and you're in the ring trading slams with the greatest heel of all time, Randy the Macho Man Savage. Oh yeah, I'm the cream of the crop. No pukesters on my left, no pukesters on my right, and you in the palm of my hand. Oh yeah, step into a Slim Jim. But wait, there's more. So he's got you pinned. You're thinking, this is it. The title belt is history now. The only thing that waits for me is 3 rings of the bell and defeat. And just when you're about to give up, the music starts, the lights explode, the curtains part, and they're bursting from the back, running down the jetway. It's the Congregation. Yes. Coming through with hugs and words of affirmation. It's Big George and the Kitchen Crew. Coming through with the coffee hour and the delicious, savory baked goods. He pops out the oven and he forces upon you, and then you eat it, and you're like, this is better than I thought it was gonna be. But then, what's this? From the other side of the ring, it's Trials and Tribulations, one of the oldest, meanest tag team crews of all time. Every single contender in the history of humanity has had to battle with trials and tribulations. And Randy's, he's looking confident now. Oh yeah, step into my playground. Yeah. Things aren't looking good, not at all. But what's this? Oh my goodness, it's family and the wider community. Look at community. Open that circle wide, decked out in every color, coming from every direction with every technique. It's almost as if their diversity is their strength. And family. What's this family? Family hasn't called me in forever, but now when I really need them and when I least expect them, they slide in to help me out. But oh no! Here comes disappointment and rage. Disappointment and rage is back from a 50-state tour, racking up victory after victory. Disappointment and rage driving the country mad. Can anyone stop them? It's a regular Royal Rumble in the life arena today, and it could go either way until random kindness and a person in a position of authority who can open a door for you run into the ring. Spandex, vegan imitation leopard skin, and suddenly Randy ain't all, oh yeah, he's like, oh no. And all your people, they come and they pull you off the ground. You're still in the fight. Victory is still possible. And as you look around the ring, all the assembled fighters, you notice that you know these people and they know you. And come to think of it, it wasn't always you on the mat. Sometimes it was them. You were the congregation then. You were prepping the coffee hour. You were the family that called. You were the wider circle. You were the random kindness. You were the person in a position of authority who opened the door for someone else. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't lived it, if I wasn't living it right now. In my walk, folks have come to my aid that I could have never have imagined. Folks who had no reason at all to put their faith in me threw me a lifeline of care when they did not have to, and Reverend John Cresswell is one of those people. I, in turn, have the responsibility and the honor to follow through and give some of that back. See, we are all the champ, but we are also the 15 wrestlers running into the ring to save the champ. That's how this faith works, y'all. See, if you are committed to follow through on your faith, if you are committed to agape, the highest form of love, then that means that you love your sibling, not just your blood sibling, but your sibling in life. And we are all siblings if we try. You will be present for them. You will protect them from the wolves. You will see that they are not defeated. And if your sibling is committed and ready to follow through with love, to be present for you, then they will do the same for you. And if I and everyone else in this room is committed, present, and ready to follow through with the highest faith and love, then we are caught in an interconnected web of life. We have become vectors of divine love. We have become instruments in our own collective salvation. Folks, I'm wrapping up, but before I do, I want to offer you all the same affirmation that I gave the inmates of Prince George's County Correctional Center, because we are just as worthy as they are. So take whatever position that you need in order to receive this blessing, eyes closed, standing, sitting, whatever feels genuine to you in this moment. You are worthy of the highest form of love. You are able to root yourselves into the ground and find stability along the roots of your ancestors. You are never powerless, for your power lies in your mind, in your connection with your fellow seekers, and the power of the eternal. You are the co-creator of your own liberation, capable of seeing opportunity and creating it when it is not present. You are not what you once were, nor are you what you will be. You are in the process of becoming an embodiment of agape, quick to forgive, quicker to aid, responsible to your community, and secure in the knowledge that love will walk with you all of your days. May it be so. Ashe. Amen.